the We Wreck Records podcast.
We kind of created our own audience, felt like they were outsiders. It was a great era. It was a time when boundaries were blown away. A lot of our lyrics came from old New York when it was dangerous. Onyx reached out. They showed up with vests, like bulletproof vests. And they're like, yo, I'm like, no way, dude, this is the hardcore scene. We were escaping the pain that we were carrying around. We masked it with substance abuse, drugs. Suddenly, unintentionally, subconsciously, we became more interested in making music together, and that replaced the need and desire to cover up all that pain inside.
Hello, welcome to We Wreck Records, a new noise magazine podcast all about delving into music that moved the needle and some new stuff. Today we have a very special guest, Billy from Biohazard, who is here to talk about 1992 record Urban Discipline that brought rap vocals, hardcore heavy metal all together. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
In 1992, who were you? What was the music around you? What did you love and were excited about? And what do you think sucked?
I think in 1992, we were still kids from Brooklyn that would go on tour. And nothing sucked at that moment, even though Beavis and Butthead loved us, and they kind of summarized our whole childhood. And I think it's crossed generation after generation with everything is either fucking amazing or it fucking sucks. That extreme attitude is what, kind of fuels you.
Yeah.
In your youth. So that's where we were in our phase of life, touring the world.
This show is proudly presented by DistroKid, and we have a special deal for all the musicians out there looking to release their new music fast. DistroKid helps over 2 million musicians around the world release on all major music streaming platforms and YouTube. You keep 100% of your earnings, can suss a huge range of features, and if you like this show, support this show by taking advantage of this incredible offer, 30% off your first year with DistroKid. Just head to distrokid.com/VIP/WeWreckRecords. This month's episodes of We Wreck Records are brought to you by Earpiece, the high-fidelity earplug brand designed to enhance your experience of live music. Their lightweight, triple-patented design basically conforms to the natural shape of your ear canal, which is awesome. And it's the closest thing to custom-molded without the price tag or the chronic fear that you're going to lose them. Your future self who wants to listen to live music when you're old will thank you. For 15% off your next pair of earplugs, head to earpiece.com/pages/WWR podcast. We'll put the link in the description. Definitely suss it out. This show is presented by Grillo's Pickles. Grillo's Pickles make the freshest, crunchiest, most delicious pickles. And even if you're not a pickle fan, you should try Grillo's today. Why not? Live a little. You can find them in the refrigerated section of your local grocery store. So chill out and eat a pickle.
But as we were getting more and more popular, because we were such a risk, the deal that we signed was the worst deal. It was like 10 cents on a dollar. I remember we had like $2,000 left over, and that money we used to finance a tour with the Exploited. So we toured the whole US with the Exploited. That was 91 and 92. We released Urban Discipline and that was the culmination of all those experiences wrapped up in one.
What is like a vivid memory? Like, that's a long tour. That's a lot of stuff. What's a vivid memory of that tour with Exploited? What sticks in your mind?
A vivid one?
Yeah, just one.
There's a lot, because we just were with them. They came down to see us in Montreal, and they were playing 2 shows at a place called Piranha Club. It's a small little bar. I played there with my solo band. It's awesome. They played 2 nights sold out in Montreal. We were like, why aren't we playing together? We were playing some bigger theater. It would have been classic reunion to play in Montreal with them. But something that stuck out. I remember we lost a week of tour because Waddy got blood poisoning. So we were stuck on the West Coast. And during that time off in San Francisco, we all got tattooed by Marcus Pacheco. We got to see Nirvana at some theater there before they broke big. Rob from Machine Head brought us. That was amazing.
Rob from Machine Head, they did something that was kind of similar to what you guys later on, and like in terms of rap and hip hop and metal and all that kind of stuff. Urban Discipline has been cited as a big influence to a whole generation of bands. Like it's really interesting. What do you think struck a chord?
It's great to hear. We just did Furnace Fest. We played with Knock Loose, and the guys were like big fans that grew up with us. So it's an honor. It's great when you and when you're still, especially when you're still touring, and you're not at an old age home, withering away. So we're gonna take it to the grave. We keep doing this. We love it. It's it's great to hear that. I'm never one to let things go to your head. I was kind of like, I remember getting gold record and saying, yeah, this and a token still gets me on the train in New York. So that's what it is. Keep your
Yeah, man.
feet planted.
New York is the founding, a big place for music and like rap and hip hop and punk rock. In some ways, were born there in heaps of ways. Like England took advice from there, and that's exciting. Um,
Yeah.
and you guys did a tune with Onyx that year with for the Judgement Night soundtrack, and
Yep.
you guys are touring with him now. Touring with him now. What about this moment made this possible, and what kind of like conversations did you have in terms of that? Because Judgment Night was crazy. Like you had like Slayer and Faith No More and Cypress Hill, and yeah, it's like all these bands are still kicking it. Like it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That was a
That was
really
like,
long question. That was a really long question, but yeah, kick off with whatever part you want to go with.
I got it. It was a great era, and it was very influential for not just us, but for everyone. It
Mm,
was a time when boundaries were blown away because before that, when we came up and even before our first record, if you were into hardcore, you didn't go to metal shows. If you were into metal shows, you didn't go, and nobody went to hip hop shows except hip hop heads. So there was so strict boundaries. Nobody fit in. And the thing about Biohazard, I think, when we played with hardcore bands that we looked up to, like Agnostic Front or Cro-Mags. We were too metal and we weren't hardcore enough. But then when we played with metal bands like Exodus or Slayer, we weren't metal enough. We were too hardcore and we had too much groove and too much that there was too much
mm.
bounce. Or not too much
Okay.
bounce, but we didn't resonate with the majority of the crowd. And especially having being heavily influenced by hip hop, there was a flow and a subject matter that were similar to the hip hop, what was going on at that time, which in my opinion was some of the greatest moments in hip hop. So we kind of created our own audience of people who felt like they didn't belong in one scene. They were a little bit, they had one foot in this scene, one foot in that scene. Their style, baggy pants and extra large shirts, and not putting, safety pins in your cheek. So like all that stuff, it was like a group of people who felt like they were outsiders that suddenly felt they were part of a scene of peers that liked the same thing.
Yeah,
And
man.
Biohazard, we were the soundtrack for that subculture, sub scene within the scene. And then it just grew. And then the scene changed. And we weren't the catalyst. We weren't the guys. We didn't start something new. We just did what we did in an authentic and real way. And I think that resonated with a lot of people. And suddenly we found ourselves with, talking to people that were like, yo, I love Wu-Tang. I love Onyx. And I just never heard of you guys, but this is awesome. It's got a bounce that's similar. And the things that you sing about. So everybody had their own maybe story about what got them into Biohazard,
Mm.
but and across the board over the years, it's still the same. When we play with hardcore bands, we're too metal, and when we play with metal bands, there's too much bounce, not enough headbanging, but we still works.
Yeah, man. There's I think having an audience of outsiders, there will always be people who feel like outsiders. Like that's maybe one of the reasons why you've lasted forever. That there's always outside. And I read this great quote. I like reading the YouTube comments for like vibes. Um, this album, talking about urban discipline, this album lifts me up whenever I feel down. It gives me the power to man up and take control of my life. Was that your intention, and did you like feel in control of your life at this moment?
I never have an intention as an artist. I don't sit down and say, hey, I'm going to try to do this and accomplish this and get somebody to make a comment like that. But that's the underlying theme. That's my MO. I always want to be a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. I look at things like they're a challenge, not a problem.
Mm.
And being faced with a lot of naysayers, with and a lot of people who didn't support us, having people um, what's his name, from
It'll
Def
come to you.
Jam,
It'll
Rick
come to you.
Rubin,
Rick
say,
Rubin.
uh, yeah, Rick Rubin say that Biohazard is a piece of shit hardcore band, a piece of shit three-chord thrash band that'll never go anywhere. And I remember playing CBGBs. It was the first time we headlined and sold it out. And this dude comes up to me and he says, "Hey, I want to talk to you. You got a second?" I said, "Yeah. What's up?" So we try to find a quiet place in CBGB's, and there wasn't any quiet spot. But I sit down and I'm like, "Hey, so what's up?" And he's like, "Oh, some people sent me down here and I wanted to check it out. I've been hearing a lot of great things about you, and you guys blew my mind. And we'd like to sit down and talk to you." I'm like, "Who are you?" And he gives me his card. It's Chrysalis Records. And I'm like, "Chrysalis Records? It's a fucking big record label, big major label." I'm like, who sent you? You're not, I've never seen you in the scene before. I don't know you." And he said, "Oh, Rick Rubin." I said, "Oh yeah, Rick Rubin." And I handed him his card back and I said, "Tell Rick Rubin we're happy being a three-chord piece of shit thrash band that'll never go anywhere."
Yeah,
So
man.
I think the thing about, and the other thing about, you said about in your question, feeling like an outsider it happens at different age for everybody. It could be 10, you could be 12, you could be 14, but you feel like you're such an outcast. Like the things that you like and the things that you are interested in are so different than the kids you grew up with for the past 5 years through grade school. And
Mm-hmm.
suddenly you feel like, I don't know, you feel diminished a bit because they make fun of the music you like, or they make fun of the styles that you like, or whatever. And that's a difficult time for all of us until you find the subculture, the scene that welcomes you. And suddenly you don't feel like an outsider. You realize you were just hanging with the wrong crowd. And
100%.
I know it sounds like a parent thing or a PMA thing, but it's the subculture welcomes all of us with open arms. And suddenly we feel like, oh, I can be myself here.
We're going to get into the record. We're going to get into some songs. Okay, Punishment. Punishment is a killer tune. It's one of the most important songs on the record. I think it had a big impact and stuff. The lyrical story is really powerful, especially the opener. Why are the innocent dead and the guilty alive? Where is justice? Where is punishment? I think a lot of people's sadness right now is about that still. Is about justice in the world because there doesn't seem to be any. Yes, heavy themes about life, death, karma, and the world around you. I feel like it's about your inner world and your outer world. What did the world around you look like, and how did it play in? Because hardcore a lot is about the world around you in some ways. And yeah, how did you feel like inside? That is such a long question, and I'm sorry.
Great. I love it's great because it's inspiring to give me different things to talk about, and it's awesome.
Awesome.
Versus the question of, if you're stranded on a desert island and you're there for 5 years, what 5 records are going to take?
Bro,
And
I've been doing this. I've done this 300 times. I don't want to be bored either. Let's
yeah.
not be bored.
So let's spice it up a bit.
Yeah,
I would say, and now I forgot your question, but
well, what was the world
um,
around you
yeah,
like? And,
growing
yeah.
up in that area, it was chaos. New York, I spent a lot of time there the past month.
Mm.
We did do Rough Trade on a record release day. I was there a couple days before, stayed a couple days after, and New York became. It was around Giuliani. I'll spare you all the bullshit politics behind it, but Giuliani came in as mayor and cleaned up the city and put cameras everywhere. New York it was New York, and like Ignacio Front says, the old New York when it was dangerous. That's when you had to look over your shoulder all the time. You had to keep your back against the wall. A lot of our lyrics came from those experiences. 5 blocks to the subway, punishment, all those the feeling of growing up in a rat cage with a bunch of other rats that want to eat and kill you, for them to survive, and you gotta have that same game face on, period. And it's a different world. I have a lot of young friends that didn't have to grow up fighting,
Yeah.
that didn't have to, worry about some guy getting stabbed and having knives pulled on you, all that stuff. And I think that's great evolution for humankind. And the tolerance is great. There was so much the language, like there's a show called All in the Family. If that show was on now, it people would have heart attacks over the stuff that they talked about and things that they said. And it was
Yeah.
so intolerant. So the world was, especially in New York, it was a rough place. We're lucky to be alive. We were telling a story how on the Exploited tour, like now you get in a car, it's just automatic. I've never met anybody that disagreed with me, but you put on your seatbelt, just normal. And without it, you feel a little insecure. On that Exploited tour that I mentioned, it was in the summer. So when we came down to the South, we would drive with the van door open because that was the only AC. The AC, it was so hot, especially through Florida. We're coming up through Florida, and I remember we were stuck in traffic by this bridge and we were sweating our balls off. So we jumped out. We were stuck on the bridge. We, not knowing what was below us, we just jumped out, stood up on the bridge rail and jumped into the water, swam ashore, ran back to the van, got in, and felt refreshed. But you did things, like you live your life like there's no tomorrow. You never know. And that, I think, has always kept us young. It's still a way I live, especially with the band. But it was a very rough time. But you only know that, I only know that now looking back,
Yeah.
telling the stories, sharing the experiences that I had. At the time, it was just normal. That's it. You know, there was some crazy things, some real crazy things. It's all in my book. And I had been previously writing for years, just collecting memories. But when you write, and this happened to me twice in my life. In school, I didn't excel in English. In writing wasn't my thing. But I realized I was a creative later. But what held me back was the same thing that held me back in music when I was younger. I studied piano since I was 6 years old. I went under these, case in point, different era. I studied, and the wife, when I was first starting, would hit me in the hand with a ruler every time I made a mistake. And then when you got to a certain level of skill, you moved up to the husband. But the husband, he would smack you in the back of the head with his hand when you made a mistake. He would tell me all the time, "You're wasting your parents' money."
Yeah.
My mom died when I was a kid, but she pushed me to stay with music and to practice piano. And I did. But it was when I quit from this family that I suddenly flourished as a musician. And my uncle, my grandfather studied, they were jazz musicians and my amazing pianists. My uncle played a frog band. So they took me under their wing and they taught me about improvisation. And suddenly I realized those rules were holding me back, but you need to have those rules to be able to form your foundation
and break them.
It's the same thing with writing. I was so concerned with punctuation and sentence structure and grammatical errors that I was holding back the creativity. So I started to write and not worry about that shit. I would just let everything flow out, and the stories and everything just, it worked. Then I would go back and then fix the mistakes, work on my sentence structure, all the things that I learned when I was in school. Now I took that to a different level during COVID. I realized if I say to myself, I'm going to sit down and write a new Biohazard song or a new Powerful song or a new Billy Biohazard song, I'm holding myself back. I'm doing the same thing. So I was writing a chapter about a tour or a moment on tour, and I was giving myself a box and locking myself in this box because I had to stay focused on what that chapter was going to be. So I started on my Patreon, I started a series called Tales from the Hard Side. and it's like me and you. I
Yeah.
just talk to the camera, and it's those stories that you get from your friends around a beer or a coffee or whatever that are way more interesting because you suddenly remember certain details and you go off on a tangent. It's kind of related to the story,
Hmm.
and you're like, oh, that one time this, and you, oh, I forgot this, and then we did this, and so they become way more interesting. So now I have like over 100 episodes of these stories that are in my book.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
that's great. Well, I think like an interview in some ways is not getting them to answer the question, but to get what's inside your head and what you're thinking about that has nothing to do with the question. Like use it as a spark kind of thing in
yeah,
some ways. And your spark is just knowing there's people there. And I also think like telling stories is the most human thing there is. Like in Australia, like I can't remember how old it is. I'm pretty sure it's 40,000 years old, but it's one of the oldest living cultures. Our indigenous people is one of the oldest living cultures on the planet. There's like a million dialects, a million languages, but the thing they share is telling stories and passed down through the generations. And I think like music history and teaching it and bringing the history to it is really important. And I think like, okay, this is a mad like shift to the side, but like bringing hardcore and hip hop together, like, well, it is related. The ethos was not passed down. And what like Judgment Night was a big deal. Like, what did kind of conversations do you have back then, and how do you feel about what's happened to it? Random aside, we've just gone. Phew. Yeah.
yeah. You did mention the tour with Onyx, and I do. They were authentic. They were real. That's what resonated with us and them. We were on tour with Sick of It All, and early days, still in a van, slugging it out, and we got a call. We were managed by this guy Scott Koenig. He was rest in peace. He was part of Rush Artist Management, who
Hmm.
had Def Jam. So Scott Koenig managed us. He worked for Rush Artist Management, which was Russell Simmons and New York Cohen, and they had every rapper in New York and beyond. And so we got a chance to meet all these people. We had met the Onyx guys. I was working at a place in Queens previously at it was mostly a hip hop studio with Miss Melody, KRS-One, Eric Rodriguez, Boogie Down Productions, and I got to know a lot of these people. And so I was always into hip hop, but I was also a punk rock hardcore kid. The guys in Biohazard turned me on to metal. So that's my
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much my
yeah. It all.
so yeah. So on this tour, the guys in Onyx reached out to Scott and asked if I would be interested in doing a remix for a song called Slam. So I flew home. We had 2 days off. I went in the studio, erased all their music, kept their vocals, and did a whole new track. They loved it. We did a video for it. And then that through that video, we remember we played the Academy in New York in Times Square. They showed up with vests, like bulletproof vests, and they're like, "Yo, we're like, you want a vest?" They're like, "Yeah, your fucking crowd's crazy. No way, I'm not showing up without a vest." I'm like, "No way, dude. This is the hardcore scene. This
That
scene
is
in New York."
that is hilarious.
We did the song, the video, and then they split. They left. So to get a chance to tour with those guys has been awesome. That friendship from that experience, we got a call from this guy, Happy Walters, and he was putting together a soundtrack for Judgment Night. And he asked us if we wanted to work with Onyx again, but from scratch, our own song. So we got in the studio with them and Jam Master Jay, rest in peace. He just passed his anniversary was passing. So he was from Run DMC. We set up the amps. He wasn't there yet. We're jamming. Onyx guy, we were smoking blunt after blunt. The studio's filled with smoke. The engineers yelling because you can't smoke weed in here. Blah, blah, blah. We're like, don't worry about it, man. It's all right. Now it's accepted. But at the time, it wasn't accepted. We're jamming. Jam Master Jay walks in. Here's what we're playing. And it was nothing big. It was just like, and the honest guys were like freestyling over the riffs. And he yells out, "Yo, get some motherfucking mics on this shit. Mic this shit up. I want this on tape now." And that was it.
Oh,
We
totally.
it was a vibe thing. He captured it. We went on tour like the next day. Onyx finished all the spitting their verses, and then they flew out to England when we were on tour. That tour we did was like a month and a half, 2 months long. We had a couple days off in Birmingham, England. So we got, and I don't know how we got this, but somebody got us into Tony Iommi, the Black Sabbath studio in Birmingham. We were so excited as big Black Sabbath fans that we were able to record in the studio. We didn't do anything. We were just drinking beers, having partying, and we're like, is this the piano they did? The song is like, what riffs they recording? We asked everybody. So after like a day and a half of like us being so excited to be there, we got a call from our manager, and he said, "Yeah, Tony needs a studio tomorrow. So if you don't finish it tonight, you're done." And we're like, "Oh fuck!" So we put our nose to the grindstone, finished the song, sang the chorus, did some other stuff, and then it was done. The song was done. So that was a song that was authentically written and real. I don't know. I remember. Yeah, we don't need to talk about other projects, but I did. There were so many great collabs on that record, and talking to the different artists over the years, finding out how they put those songs together. I was happy that we did ours authentically in one room together. It was pretty cool.
Well, it kind of goes back to like you're learning writing and vibing with improvisation in a writing context. You're kind of vibing with improvisation in a music context, which is awesome.
Yep,
And
100%.
there's like shades of gray, and it's a song a lot of people love off this album. The music video is one of my favorites of all time. Like, it's just so vibey. It's just so, there's just so much energy and there's so much moment. What would people be surprised about the making of that video and stuff?
The song was another song that we had written on tour, played it a lot every night, and then we changed it around by there were certain things like yo, the crowd was like fucking digging this. Let's extend this build up and let's drop it like this. And that was when we came up with the Biohazard thing, you know. But when we did the video, I was just with the producer and director Drew Stone. He's working on a long form film for us that we've been working on the past 3 years.
Sick.
He did that video. I remember there was a lot of fire. We had a friend who was just starting out in like the pyro business in New York. So we filmed at the train yard station, like the old rundown trains. And I don't know how we got it because we didn't have a budget, but you have to pay a lot of money to get permission. It must have been a favor for something. But we made homemade, this is the coolest thing. We made homemade flamethrowers. It was a can of propane, like a C clamp, a hose to another C clamp on a long pipe with a valve. And you had to open the valve a little bit and you lit it. So the light the gas would come out a little bit and stay lit. And you had to slowly and creatively give it enough gas so it exploded out, but didn't blow out the fire, blow out the ignition light. And we made it work. And it was awesome. I remember playing with those things. And then the crazy thing, it was around the time with Beavis and Butthead. They used to say fire a lot, and something happened. They got sued, or some watch or some viewer did something with fire. And so they made us cut that out of the video because at the time Beavis and Butthead loved punishment and they loved Biohazard. But the video, it's on, you can't find it without it. But on
Yeah.
Beavis and Butthead, we cut those scenes out. They're like, we can't do it. We're in a lawsuit with fire. Kids are going to know that you guys did this, and you're probably going to tell them all. And we did because it was the coolest thing we ever did.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Things went down. It's like it's like Judas Priest being blamed for like kids doing bad things to themselves in that era, like and
Yeah.
getting in trouble. It's kind of dumb. Like you guys got some. Wait a minute. Let's finish in the song. Like I love it. Like especially like I just saw the Rough Trade video. There is no black and white, and there is no white in our world. There are only shades of gray. Like you can't not take it as a thing about like race. Like you can't not. I mean, I don't know. It's a really fiery time for that stuff. Like there is like a rise up of this pretty dark stuff that is anti people from other countries, and a country of immigrants is like angry about it. It's weird. Like, that's
Look,
that's the founding of your country. Is that
yeah,
what's
I
what?
agree. Hence, the new record is called "Divided We Fall."
Yeah.
And we were in I got this great picture. Um, we were in New York. We played Warsaw in Brooklyn the other night,
Hmm.
and this young woman in a burqa, a Muslim woman, was coming over the barricade. She stage dove and stage floated more than anybody.
So,
She comes over the other night. No, it was in Jersey. At that's right. She was going crazy in at Warsaw. She came to the same. She came to the show to see us in Starland the other night in Jersey. She comes over the barricade over and over again, and this woman was going crazy. And I'm like, wow. And I love seeing that. The energy is a reciprocal cycle, and when the crowd gives us the energy back, we give it back, and it just grows and grows and grows. So both those shows were phenomenal. She comes down, and Evan is singing. I remember our friend Mike from Sworn Enemies playing bass, and we were playing Punishment, and Evan is on the barricade. She comes over, knocks him off the barricade unintentionally, and she grabs the mic and sings that one line. So Evan he's Jewish. He's a very proud Jewish man. And here's this woman who's Muslim and wearing a burqa, and they're holding the mic, singing the song together. It was like it summed up everything. I was like, wow, that's divided we fall. So it is timely, but the thing you said is our lyrics from back in 1992 resonated with people in a way that helped build this family that we call a family.
mm,
I think it's the new record has that same kind of um, magnetism.
yeah.
It resonates with the lyrics and it's timely. So
Yeah.
that songs we write in the early '90s that they're still relevant now, even more
100%.
so. Um,
100%. Fuck the system.
so
People feel like that. People
yep,
people are mad. People are super mad. Like I
yep.
wish I wanted to change. I have this belief that the pendulum will swing from like a place where people aren't seen as valuable, especially like color of their skin and their, there's some problems with the world, and I have a beautiful belief that the pendulum will swing back and we'll enter a new humanist era. The trouble is, it might be a cataclysmic climate event that does it to us. I feel like it could be like something really nuts that makes us sometimes somehow care about other people, but it's not really a
I, I
question. That's not really a question.
I hear that. I hear you. Um, and there has been like a lot of progress in man and in humankind has always been around a pandemic. There's always been these
Mm,
crazy growth in society around pandemics. And the pandemic COVID era changed a lot. It suddenly most people communicate like this.
mm,
People work from home. There's you know long ago, people started their own business. They left one industry and went to something new. And so what I think is happening, I think what people are seeing, and I think when you talk about the pendulum, because the pendulum swings, and when it swings one extreme, it usually swings equally to the other extreme, and that's just physics, right?
mhm,
But I think it needs to chill, and I don't like the extreme because when it that's the huge division of the world, and whether it's being a vegetarian or
mm.
carnivore, being having one religious belief or another religious belief. The same, like I was baptized, I was raised Catholic, and I had my beliefs. But it's the same. The dude in I don't know Syria that is Muslim wakes up every morning, worries about his kids, worries about the food on the table, worries about the roof over his family's head. Same things I do, the same shit.
Totally.
But if you keep us at odds,
Mm.
we're busy in confrontation and disliking each other. Not that I do. I'm saying so the
I
division
agree.
all a ploy for shit to go on behind our backs. And there was the Patriot Act during the September 11th era that came out of that. And suddenly, as far as all these freedoms, that was a crazy thing. And so it's everything's the guy. So you can't no now I think people are just more wise to it. If you look at the happy life of the 50s and the 60s, the men were the earners, the women were were the nurturers, and it was this fake happiness. And there was a rebellion. And woman now,
Especially with the women.
yeah, yep.
As a woman, you would never want to time travel because all it does is get worse. You know, I'm an independent, single, fucking educated person. I have a level of freedom women back then would have dreamed of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Side
So I think the pendulum, it's swinging wildly, but I'm a moderate guy.
Yeah,
I
me
don't
too.
like I don't I don't like the fact that you friends can't talk about what their beliefs are because they're afraid that someone else is going to get so riled up that they're going to lose that friendship. And that happens all the time with all of us.
Like I'm moderate as well. I just humanist, man. I just want people to come first and kindness to come first and love and respect whoever. I don't care. Like and just live and let live.
So, so it does. You probably don't have any children, right?
Nah, man. Not
So
my dance card. Not on my dance card.
I do. And it everyone is born like that. Society, upbringing, nature, nurture,
Mm,
media, it poisons that. And but every child is born with love and affection and
mm,
needs, and then suddenly the outside influence molds that into something different.
100%.
Um, I believe that evil is so small. There's so much great in the world, but evil is what sells papers. Evil, the yellow journalism, it's what it's clickbait. All these horrible things, um, and it eats away at you. So I always try to, and I it's very hard to, but I try not to. If I see something it grabs my interest, usually it's a bad thing, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Let me go watch a jujitsu video. Let me watch a surfing video.
My
Let me
whole
look at
feed is American politics. I don't know why. My whole feed on Instagram is American politics. I'm like, I'm an Australian man. We got healthcare. We got a social safety net. If I don't have a job, I can eat. If I get sick, I'll get treated. Like I feel so. Anyway, we are going down a path.
yeah,
Urban discipline is a. It's okay to go down a path, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
It's not like
Well, this is about your values as a musician. And I think values are so important. And like urban discipline, like the title track, you talk about hunger, pleasure, pain, violence, and crime. That's what we're talking about, like the dark things. Can you tell us about how you grew up and how it formed you and how that fed into this song?
yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Um, and I have so much history and stories about Australia.
Really?
It's I could keep you for days
Yeah.
talking, but so I'm going to throw you a boomerang
Go
with
on.
this one. So to give you where we started, all right?
Hmm?
Biohazard, we were fuck ups. We were on really destructive paths. It was bad.
Mm,
I was like, oh, my life is spiraling out of control. My mom died when I was a kid. I carried so much anger. Bobby had his family issues. Danny did too. Evan had his thing. We were bonded by our upbringing
mm.
in a lot of ways. We were bonded by always feeling like we were outcasts, like we didn't belong anywhere. We founded that. Hey, bud. Sorry, I just staying out of my son.
Awesome. You made a person.
Yes, I did.
You made
I'm
a
wonderful.
person.
Yes, and I'm going to talk about that because I have some really poignant because you mentioned something that that triggered this something I
Yeah,
want to say
man.
about that. So we were on super destructive paths, like and a lot of our friends didn't make it. Our original drummer didn't make it.
Yeah, of course.
So we were escaping the pain that we were carrying around for so long as young kids and young men, that we masked it with different things: substance abuse, drugs, violence, all all these things. And it culminated when we were, no, it's hard to finish this story because my son's so, but we culminated and we were sitting around a table, um, and we hadn't decided on the name of the band yet. All right. So we're sitting around. I'm a good father. I
You
want
are
to
good.
leave the world a
Get
better
it, girl.
place. And my children help me do that even
Yeah,
more. So,
it's awesome.
so we're sitting around a table. We had a list of like 5 names, and obviously Biohazard was one of them. I don't remember the other 4 names. And we're sitting around the table smoking crack, and the pipe's going around. Somebody hands me a stem, and I'm like, Evan says to me, "So what are we going to call the band?" And I'm like, "Let's go with Biohazard." You
Whoa.
don't you don't do that and have your life turn around in a better way. Suddenly, unintentionally, subconsciously, we became more interested in making music together, and that replaced the need and desire to cover up all that pain inside with
Dude,
drugs and substance abuse and
that's
alcohol.
that's awesome. Yeah, because
It's
like
a it's a
the whole
it's a
thing,
it's a tough.
especially with like with yeah those stimulants and stuff, which are a huge problem and stuff. And I think there's a big reason that people aren't able to emotionally regulate. Like people are doing it for escape and to not feel anything and to not sit in their emotions and stuff. And the thing about music is you sit in your emotions and you put them out. You like push them out and then you get something back. So it
Yep.
becomes a circuit. And then like, I got friends who got messed up in ice and stuff, and there's no one ever who said, God, my life got better since I started doing that. No one in the history of time has said this really was
Yeah.
an upswing in my life. So that's really awesome that you were able to find something else that channeled that emotion and made you able to feel it by yeah, it's about processing. I think if people learned how to regulate their emotions, there'd be no drug problem, there'd be no alcohol problem, there'd be no violence, there'd be no crime. So much of it, especially domestic violence in this country, like it's really dangerous. And I think it's men not being able to process their emotions. And
I,
yeah.
I think I think back then, especially,
Mm,
people process their emotions more. They communicate more. But when you're younger, when we grew up, and there's a song about that in the new record,
mm,
um, uh, but it was almost like it was a weakness when
mm,
you talked about your problems, and especially in New York,
mm,
especially for young men.
mm,
Um, you know, that's just the way it was.
mhm.
And the people who are close to me in my life, I found that the younger friends of mine
Mhm.
are able to communicate their emotions much more
So
fluidly than
there's
I,
been a revolution in that, I think.
and that's awesome.
Yeah.
So people make fun of it, but it's fucking awesome. I wrote a song. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah, but it's important this stuff it matters and that's about the origin of the band. It's interesting I had like Be Real from Cypress Hill on my mental health podcast. I've got a mental health podcast and he grew up in gang life and he's had an incredible story in that yet generally you can't leave that life, but they heard his music and went, "Bro, just go." Like get out of here. And it's the same thing like you weren't allowed to say, "Hey, this is hard right now. I'm not really coping." Like, I'm not really coping with this. And what's really cool as well is, especially punk rock, is a way for people to process their emotions. That hearing it laid out, like, that's like the way people get through it. And you
they,
guys have been doing it this long. Obviously, you had times where you weren't doing your thing, but it's cool to come back and, make a new album and, like, give give that gift to people. And you made albums that really made an impact back then, and this new record's really solid and awesome. And I don't know, man, you should be proud of yourself. So that's not a question.
it's a yeah. I you know I am I when people come up to me and say, "Hey," and it happens all the time. We meet and go out of our way to spend time with people that follow us.
Mhm.
And when they tell me, "Thank you for this song," it meant so much to me and helped me get through a dark time in my life. You were the soundtrack that's helped me survive the things that I went through.
Dude.
Ours, what we wrote helped us. So that kind of ties into the story about when we named the band.
Mm.
Suddenly,
Ooh.
we didn't know this. No one tells you, hey, people always say, you got to talk about what's inside.
Yeah.
It's easier now, but in the 80s, when we were coming up in the
Mm.
early 90s, you didn't. And there was nobody telling that. There was people just like, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? Why are you fucking, getting in fights all the time? Why are you hanging out with those dudes and robbing people? It was fucking horrible. But we accidentally found the solution. And the other thing too, what I saw, and I think it's an accidental remedy for everyone in the music scene. We all have this pressure, and I don't care if you're 15 or you're 25 or 35. It could be at school, could be at home with your parents, it could be at your job or whatever in your relationship. You need to release that pent up energy. In alcohol, like drug abuse, that's a release. And unfortunately, some people fall into that. But the release that we all love in our subculture world is going to a show. It's dancing how you want, like no one's watching. It's stage diving. It's getting floating on top of the crowd, maybe getting dropped on your head. All that stuff. When you leave a show and you're soaking wet, it's amazing. It's cathartic. It's in essence therapy. When we
Right,
were
man.
young, when we were young, we didn't know that.
Yeah, man.
We accidentally found through that gateway experience that writing about what was inside of us helped us deal with it and helped us cope with our problems and our issues. And when people read our lyrics, they suddenly felt, because when I was a kid, I remember writing one song and Bobby going, that happened to you? Like, yeah, yeah, man, me too. I didn't know
That's
that.
that's big, bro.
So and so when I don't want to say fans, but when friends of ours that follow us, I get it all the time. And so when you ask me, you should be proud. My father was a scientist. He worked on cancer his whole life, and our mother died of cancer. And then he switched to working on AIDS, finding a cure for AIDS. But he did something that I thought would leave humanity with such a big impact his life.
Man.
I never looked at it like it's like, oh, I want to do something like that, make a big, huge impact on the world. But shaking people's hands and looking in their eyes and having them say, thank you, Billy, Bobby, Danny, and Evan, because you made an impact in my life and I'm a better person because of it. That is way better than finding, for me, that's my version of finding the cure for cancer, right? So, and
That's the real,
I'm
man.
proud.
That's the real. This show.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
real.
magic. That's the yeah, dude. Like that's art matters and art matters, you know. And
Yep. I remember. Here's the thing: that you have to. Good people have to stand up against evil in evil times, and stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves.
yeah,
And
man.
you just, Marty, this sounds so. It's not a rock and roll, punk rock, or hardcore or metal thing to say,
It's a
and
human thing.
people are gonna, go, oh, that's stupid. But to me, it meant the world.
Mm.
The school, and this now it ties in because I have something to say about my children and what it's like with that.
Hmm.
The school in my neighborhood, it was tough times in financially, and all my taxes, all my money goes to pay for the things around my neighborhood and the school and
Hmm.
the system. They were closing the art department and the music department in the gym, like the gym program.
Hmm.
So I volunteered and helped the music department. And I remember the woman who was in charge was a big Sick fan. First, she said, I like Biohazard, but Sick is my favorite. I'm like, no problem. So it was cool. And then helped raise money for them. So they saved the music department. And then I volunteered as a gym, not coach, but like I would go to there and I was the gym guy, and I would take the kids out and make sure they do all these exercises, and it was awesome because they were going to close the department, and having that ability to step up and do something and put my part in as other parents did, help the school get through these tough times, and we saved the music, saved the art, and we saved the exercise part of it, but somebody asked me, now that you're a father, like, and you're on stage screaming about these things, like, do you really believe this with the same passion, the things that you had back then? And like you saw my look on my face when I haven't seen my son. I just flew in.
It
I
was
hadn't seen my
cute.
son.
Yeah.
He's the love of my life. My
Yeah.
wife and my daughter are too. My daughter just got the lead in Rocky Horror Picture Show, and it was
That's
all.
awesome.
So, and I got that question, and which was, to reiterate, was, you got kids, and you're not a 20-year-old kid anymore. Can you really sing about the things that matter to you with that much passion? Because you're worried about going to see back to school night, and go to the football game on Friday night to watch your son play, or go to your daughter's college, to see her doing her thing, and all the other things that come along with being a parent. The things that I screamed about in 1992 on Urban Discipline meant the world to me, and they mean the world to me now. When we sing and we play those songs every night, I'm there. I'm the 19-year-old kid again. But singing them now as a father, I cared about humanity then. You probably weren't born then, right? You don't have to answer, but I cared about what the world was going to be like when you were born a couple of years later, whatever. Now, I still care about all the same people that I cared about then, humanity and as a whole. But I also care about how I'm going to leave the world, not just for them, but how I'm going to leave the world for my kids.
Yeah, dude.
And it makes me, it adds rocket fuel to that passion that I had when I was 19, 20 in the early days.
And one of the greatest contributions to humanity is raise good kids who are,
Yep.
especially raise, like, not to gender it, but a lot of the problems with the world is a lot of men don't have good role models. So to be a good role model for men is, like, women are of course important, but to be a good role model for young men is really important in terms of making them good men in the future, because that affects women in a lot of ways, and that's being a role model, and will also taking care of women and setting a good example of what a good man can be, and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's a big deal. And look, kids aren't on my dance card, but I'm glad people are, like, doing it right, and giving
Well,
a shit.
humanity rolls on, and
Yeah.
it's I get it, and I understand. I have a lot of friends. There's only, like, Bobby doesn't have any children.
Mm.
He he's he has all this freedom,
Yeah.
but I have another type of freedom with my
100%.
family. Another kind of inspiration. I always say that my family is there. They recharge me. I come home exhausted,
Mm.
and they recharge me. They fill my heart back up, my soul back up.
That's
Because
beautiful.
on tour, you're constantly. People always want to, and I'm a people person. I love talking. I shake your hand. I look you in the eye, and I listen,
Mm.
and I'm attention. I'm not interested in the other more important person behind you, because to me, I don't care if you're the president or the garbage man. You're the same, and I treat
100%.
you this.
100%.
But
That's
I do
exhausting.
see.
That's exhausting because you give a bit of yourself to every person.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
all day. Like, we do, like, the day starts in the morning, and the crew guys get to the club.
Hmm.
We get there around the same time. We bullshit for a bit, do our thing, and then we do sound check. But we do, like, a meet and greet with our fans, and
Hmm.
we allow us, they want to come, they come to sound check. Then we sound check for 2 hours. We play old songs we never played. We work on new songs,
Mm.
and then we hang out with them for like another hour and do question answer. And then we take pictures, shake hands. They tell us stories about when they saw us for the first time, or whatever. And it's a 5 hour thing.
Yeah,
And
man.
then we got food, and we rock out and play the show, and then we do it again after the show. So my point is, nobody knows the amount of time that you put into it, and
Hmm.
it's all out of the love for what you do, period. It's not the same money. Like, you don't, any band that you can't say I'm doing it for the money these days, because it's not, there's no money. It's not. And I'll tell you this, people don't know this. In the 90s, you made $1, maybe $1.10, depending on what record deal you had per record. That's a lot of records. That's a lot of money. Now you make every spin, every stream, you make 0.003 cents per stream.
Oh, dude.
That's
I got feelings about Spotify. Like the record industry's been messed up since the 50s in different ways. But right now, like
yep.
they had a Spotify, like you really shouldn't be on a yacht and everyone making the music isn't on a yacht. Like there needs to be a revolution. There needs to be a revolution.
You
And
remember Pirate
that's
Bay?
another story. Yeah, of course.
He was the owner of Pirate Bay.
No way. That's crazy. Oh my God. Yeah,
Google it.
anyway, I'm gonna hate on him too hard, but
I,
I
you know
believe in
what?
a revolution. I believe a revolution must come and the revolution must be televised and the artist must win. And that
Here
we
it
should
is.
we yeah. So
The artist always wins,
yeah, man.
because it's not, nobody starts. I mean, the ones who start out for a money grab, that's soulless. But
Good point.
the ones who are real, like, oh, we lose so many people. All
Mm.
right, Ozzy, just my ringtone is Ozzy. When they're gone, just press play, and you live forever as an artist. So your art is there forever. So you don't lose. The money hungry, and I know I've seen them all. We've been on so many different record labels. We've been doing it for 35 years.
It's wild.
I've been on so many different record labels and watched people come and go. And the good ones come to see us play. Monty Connor from Roadrunner, we hung out backstage. He signed us to the label. He was one of my confidants. Scott Koenig. There's so many great gems.
Yeah, man.
But the ones who have been, pick away at bands and rob them, for what? You can't take that to the grave, and it doesn't live on. Your memory doesn't live on because you were the thief.
Yeah.
But the music that you were robbing from, the artist that created that lives forever. That's it's
That's a
it
beautiful
it's
thing. Yeah, and I think okay, final question. If this like if urban discipline was put in a time capsule, this is kind of related, hopefully not lame. A time capsule 50 years from now, how do you think some kid would feel about it? You know, so they open up this time capsule, and to be honest, it's like it'll be like 80 years old by then, which is wild.
I would think that they will read the lyrics, and because it's hard to know unless you're in the artist's head, and they're going to read the lyrics and listen to the music and probably pick up the energy that you picked up and other people pick up, because you weren't there in 1992 to get that as a kid, um, and say, wow, is this real? Was it really that fucked up for them? And it was. Our first record, it was self-titled. It was about only New York. Then we toured a little bit. We went to Europe. Our friends in Monkey Pup took us there. We toured the States on that record. And we were like, oh shit. It's not just Brooklyn and New York that's fucked up. It's the same troubles in LA, same shit in Paris, same shit in Amsterdam or Toronto. We were like, wow. And that record, from that experience and that inspiration, is Urban Discipline.
Yeah, man. Well, that's a beautiful thing, and who knows where the world's going to go, but as you say, the music lives forever. This is Billy, Biohazard. We have spoken about Urban Discipline, and we have spoken about Divided We Fall, which is their new album and the first one in 15 years. So you should get in there. You should find some music that you should discover some new music, or hopefully If you're a fan of this album, you have gotten something out of it and a bit of the story behind it. This is We Wreck Records. I'm Christina. We are for New Noise Magazine. Good day to you. May the dark forces be with you.